This is the 20th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL, Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk about bass fishing. We have a new first-time Elite Series champion, and he did it in the most dramatic of fashions, abandoning his largemouth pattern in the waning moments as he saw the Elite Series slipping away from his grasp, going to smallmouth bass, coming in didn't think he had a shot to win. You could see Ed Lockridge standing up there, thought Chris Johnson had it in the bag. A 1 ounce victory in Elite Series competition. Now, I can remember, I believe, 2 other 1 ounce victories, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is just off the top of my head. I'm going to go 2009, I believe, where John Cruz beat Skeet Reese by 1 ounce out in California. And that was when Skeet weighed the dry bag. Cruz dunked the bag when they did the drive-through weigh-in. There were 6,000 Skeet Reese fans there. He held out each fish, put it in a dry weigh-in bag, and then Cruz got him by 1 ounce. And then I also believe on Toledo Bend, Dean Rojas edged Gerald Swindle out by a 1 ounce and then did the Mr. Olympia pose on stage following his dramatic victory. But Ed Lockridge III, 80 pounds, 12 ounces, gets the job done on Lake Champlain. Chris Johnston, Robert G, who's come on really strong in the second half of the year, throwing some sneaky hair out there a little bit too. He ended up in third. Some other key players in the Angler of the Year race. Number 1, Chris Johnston, who's in second, and then Jacob Fouts finished in 8th. A really strong showing when he needed it the most too. Justin Hamner, who we talked about yesterday, is looking to become the first angler since KVD did it back-to-back in 2010 and 2011 to win the Angler of the Year and the Bassmaster Classic in the same season. He finished 28th. I actually texted a little bit with him on that last day. You know, so anything on Champlain that starts with a 16 or a 17 is typically not good. But he grinded out almost an 18-pound bag on the second day. He said all of his stuff was blown out. It was totally trash. His fish were gone, and he somehow managed to do that to finish in 28th and take a slim lead in the Progressive Bassmaster Angler of the Year standings into the final event that kicks off this Thursday on the St. Lawrence River. After today's guest, we'll dive into just exactly what the logistics look like for that Angler of the Year race. But St. Lawrence River shaping up to be long runs. The weather looks good. We just saw Michael Neal, who will have Michael Neal on next week on BTL. We saw really strong winds. They took out of Messina. This is going out of Waddington starting on Thursday. I expect to see the majority of the field make that long run out into the lake. So equipment, timing, logistics, and fish landing in what basically is we'll say a 3-horse race, but you could technically say it's mainly maybe a 7-horse race with Corey Johnston in 7th, but he's 41 points back. So someone else who's in an Angler of the Year race, well, not an Angler of the Year race, but a points race for a very important qualification is Florida's Brandon McMillan. Dude's won a lot on the FLW Tour or MLF, made the jump last year to the Open EQs, and then just a solid season this year finds Brandon in the top 20 of the Bassmaster Open EQ points race with 3 events remaining. So I gave Brandon a shout and said, hey, you want to jump on BTL and talk about it? And there you are.
Perfect, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Before that, is that a kitten that you have? That didn't look like a full-grown cat. It looked like a kitten.
That was my wife's cat. Let's get that clear.
You're not a cat guy.
I mean, yeah, not really. But
because Jeffrey's big cat guy. Like always had cats. Like he's got his favorite cat on a box, that's no longer with us, but Buddy with the paw prints always has cats, which shocks me. Like some guys are cat guys, some guys aren't.
Nothing wrong with cats, man. I'm more of a dog guy. We got a yellow lab, but when we were in Eufaula, Oklahoma, she called me and she says, "What do you think about getting a cat?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not." And that was the end of it. And then I come home and we have a cat. So, we'll see who won that one. It certainly wasn't me.
There you go. Are you like a fan of the sport? Do you like follow everything that's going on? Like, do you follow the Angler of the Year races and the BPT and the Elite Series and watch them on Champlain and that? Or are you, because it's interesting to me, some guys are big like fans of the sport who fish, and some guys just kind of follow what happens, but really focus on their main fishing.
Not really. Like I always keep up with it. Like I got a lot of buddies that fish, MLF, and I got a lot of buddies that fish, the Elite Series. So I always check in throughout the day and watch a little bit of live coverage when I can. But no, not really. Like I'm not a big like YouTube guy that watches a lot of YouTube stuff. I'm not, I just kind of like to, do my own thing a little bit. But I have watched a lot more live in the last 2 years from both leagues. Just watching how some of these guys go about forward facing sonar and stuff like that. Like it's a great way to learn, you know what I mean? Pick up little things and stuff like that. So yeah, in the last 2 seasons, I've definitely watched more live and gone back and watched, more live coverage than I think I ever have. But I'm constantly keeping up with who, who's in the top 10, who's doing well. You know what I mean? Like I said, I've done this so long that I've got really good friends on both sides, and I always want to keep up with them.
The live is wild to me because one of the dynamics that I don't think gets talked a lot about is how quickly trends and new tactics, I don't want to use the word exposed, but are exposed. Like I said, you've been doing this long enough where, and especially, with where you're from and what you do, you probably could keep something under your hat for 3 or 4 years. Now, if you're fishing at the top level, you got 100,000 on the line, you got qualifications. It's hard to hide stuff. And I feel like the cycle of something coming out, someone mastering it, and then the rest of the top anglers picking up on it is like instantaneous now, whereas there's no 2-3 years where you can really bash people's teeth in before it slowly catches on.
No. And early on in my, when I started this and when my dad would take me fishing and stuff like that, it was a complete different world. I mean, anglers didn't talk amongst other anglers that was my dad's generation. Like they never shared any, you know what I mean? It was a different time, and you could keep things a secret. Like, somehow, and I forget exactly how it was, but my dad fished a tournament I think on Lake Eufaula in Alabama, and he brought home the chatterbait, the original chatterbait, and we kept it a secret for probably 2 years. And my dad would call directly to the original owners of chatterbait and order, a couple $100 worth at a time. And and so when Thrift won a long time ago down here on it, it kind of opened my eyes to it. It takes one good tournament to kind of let the cat out of the bag, kind of ruin it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So that was like the very first time. That was when they had commissioned Z-Man, and that's still on that package, has Brian Thrift, Southeast Stren Series champion. So you were fishing them before that, when like Hank Cherry and Casey Ashley were putting them in it, and the Davis family was selling them, straight out. Have you seen that documentary that we did like 3-4 years ago on it?
No, I haven't.
Oh, no. Dude. Hold on a second. I gotta pull this up. If you're a chatterbait guy, you gotta watch this. This thing is cool. Here, I'll share screen here. So it's called, we did like the $1 Million Idea, and Dave Rush from BTL, he now does the Best on Tour stuff. There it is right there. But like literally goes through the entire thing. There's the guys who invented it, talked about the whole thing, went through like all the different stuff, talked about the progression with Nussbaum, went to like Brett Hite, talked about, I mean, dude, like it goes through the entire history of the chatterbait. So you'd probably find that interesting.
I definitely will check it out. Yeah. Yeah, it was a cool deal. I mean, it was a cool deal to have something different. I mean, I just, yeah, it was, I got so many stories about that, but we won a big tournament down here on it. And I remember my dad actually, somebody come within 100 yards of us, and he took it all. He set his rod down, quit throwing it. And he got about 75 yards from us, and he reached down and snipped it off and stuck it in his pocket. Like that's how that, you know, and that was just old school. That was old school bass fishing 101 back then, you know. But yeah, the chatterbait's got a lot of cool stories. Honestly, man, even though I've thrown it for so long, I couldn't tell you the last bass I've caught on one or weighed in a tournament. Just kind of one of them things I got away from. I think I got angry because everyone started catching them off of it, and I just put it down like a decade ago. And I've slowly kind of worked it back in because I'm tired of getting beat by it.
Yeah. I'm going to Japan the end of September, beginning of October with Sunline, and we're going to do some tackle stores. And I'm very interested in seeing, I know they've got a bunch of kind of like different chatterbait style baits over there. I'm interested in trying to get my hands on some of those.
Excellent. I will text you over a shopping list for me. You can
you know which ones like are the good ones that I need to get?
No, I'm just fascinated by the whole Japanese fishing industry over there. And yeah, anytime that I can get some stuff over there, I feel like it's just not everyone's got it over here, and it's just cool. I mean, you know, they're on the cutting edge of all the, you know, the good stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's scary. You look at what Takumi and some of those guys are throwing, and it's so bizarre. Like, just like we've seen, like forward facing kind of blow our mind on where fish are, like in the post spawn and the early fall transition and turnover and that type of stuff. Like, you're looking at some of those baits and you're like, man, there's some other realm that you can tap into a fish's like sense with the fuzzy dice and some of the whatever they call that, and a bunch of those different baits. It's like, man, we're like really close-minded if you think about it. Like, if you actually think about like the last 10 years of bass fishing, I think we've realized we've been super close-minded.
I mean, absolutely. And I'm about as close-minded as you can get. Just as general, like, I mean, the vast majority of all the money I've made has either come flipping a Texas rig or a jig.
Yeah. Well, that's Florida too, though, right? Like, I mean, I feel like most of the hard-headed, I do one or two things really good, and if I'm going to catch him, I'm going to catch him this way. I mean, that's a Florida guy to me.
It is. I mean, we're bred a little different down here. We're stubborn, and you know, and more times than not, it works. But yeah, I mean, but like I said, in the last couple of years, the Japanese market has really intrigued me. I mean, I've spent a lot of my life savings on stuff from overseas, and it's good. It's good, but yeah, it's a different deal over there for sure.
Yeah. So we've had you on BTL before after wins. You have almost over $650,000 with MLF, and a lot of it's with FLW back in the day. But you're one of those guys who like took a risk last year in 2023 and said, I'm jumping into all 9 of these things. I remember before that very first tournament on Eufaula, Alabama, I was like looking around, and it was like James Niggemeyer and you look at some of these guys, you're like, my God, like there's a bunch of guys who like do this for a living that are relying on 9 open EQs and making the jump to the Elite Series. We'll talk about, you're in a really good position this year, but just talk about looking back now with a little bit in hindsight, a little bit of perspective. Was that scary for you, making that jump and leaving something where you had won so much and it was so comfortable for you to saying, hey, let's go chase the Elite Series?
No, it wasn't at all. I mean, it was, I never even thought twice about it. Like, I wasn't real happy over there. Just, for lots of reasons, but ultimately, like, I needed to change. I was kind of stale, stagnant, and I thought, I'll be honest with you. I thought that, jumping to the opens, I had fished just a few opens, over the last, over the couple of years of my career. I thought it was kind of going to be kind of easy, easier. I'll get to the elites, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. I was 100% dead wrong on that. Like, that is, I was stuck in a rut where I didn't want to learn forward facing sonar when I was fishing, MLF. And I thought I could move over to bass, do the opens, and, fish the way I wanted to fish and make the elites. And like I said, that couldn't have been further from the truth. I mean, I had a worse season last year than I had, previously. It's just a different game. Like, I made the comment last year to a lot of my Elite Series buddies. I said, the 9 rookies that are coming over are going to absolutely cave your faces in. And they're like, nah, not going to happen. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. And I looked at the points after Champlain. I think there's 4 or 5 of those rookies in the top 10, and all of them are going to make the Classic unless some unforeseen thing happens in the last Derby of the year.
There's 7 in the top 16 right now. 7 of the 9, by the way, in the top 16 of the Angler of the Year, with 1 left.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I definitely underestimated the field. I'll just be honest with you. And that was good. That gave me, after about halfway through the year last year, I realized, like, this is going to be a tough one, and I really, hunkered down during the off season and tried to get my ducks in a row as best I could. Them boys, man, the guys that we fish against out there, the opens are a tough field because you got the local advantage and stuff like that. But just, overall, dude, the Emil Wagners and Paul Marks, that if they make it or they don't make it this year, there's going to be 5 more, Paul Marks that are just as good, if not better at their game. You know what I mean? Coming up. And I know that's kind of always been a trend, but it really hadn't. There's always been 1 or 2 standout guys. And then they kind of have, on their rookie class, then they have an off year or 2, and then they get their feet, back underneath them. And then they go on to have, solid, stellar careers. But man, these guys, dude, they don't slip.
They don't miss.
Yeah. The guys that are good with forward facing sonar, they don't have bad ones. They just don't. And that's something that an old school guy going down the bank, flipping a jig for 7 bites a day. We have bad ones. You know what I mean? Like, you can look at my career. Like, I've made a couple top 10s in the FLW Tour in the points race, but I've always had, 120th place finish.
Yeah.
And that's just because they didn't eat my cricket flipping around docks. You know what I mean? And so it's different. And these boys can catch them. That much, that's a fact. That's a fact.
To me, I just had I had like an hour-long conversation with Jeffries with it yesterday. I'd like to actually have that conversation on the show because he was talking about the middle, they just go out in the middle. And I'm like, no, he's like, well, what's different? I'm like, well, they're understanding that there are patterns to the middle. And the patterns are, in my opinion, from what I've seen, are more so related to bait fish and bait fish movement that we've never been able to understand before. So like, there is no post-spawn funk. There is no summer lull. There is no turnover or fall transition. It's just that for 50 years, we weren't able to or didn't understand where 90% of the fish were feeding, and the guys that were the best at it were able to catch the 10% of the fish that were related to the channel swings, the secondary points, the hard structure, the resident fish that were up shallow. And what these younger anglers are coming in with an open mind is saying, okay, they're able to find the biggest concentration of bait fish that are being targeted by bass that are 90% pelagic, and the easiest fish to catch are fish that are actively feeding and competing.
Yeah.
And if you're able to find that section on every single lake, there's a big time skill in it, because as you and I both know, I've spent $4,000 to feel completely lost for 5 days in the abyss and literally drove home going, what in the hell did I just do? But then I've also had those moments where you're like, okay, I'm kind of understanding it. And these guys know how to find the fish and the bait fish offshore. And it's just a completely different mindset of pattern fishing than what we've been taught for the last 50 years.
No, it is. And I mean, like I said, I got my eyes opened last year about halfway through the season to how the new game is going to be played. You know, it's like I said, it's something that I've worked on so much. I mean, I live on Okeechobee, and that's not the best place to do this, you know, to run them down in the middle of the pond. But, you know, we've got a lot of deep, clear lakes within about an hour of here. And I spent more hours, you know, fishing up there. Actually, I think I put my boat in the water one time since we had our open here on Okeechobee, And it's, you know, it's just, it's a different game that we play now, you know what I mean? And it's either, I don't like it. I mean, I just make that clear. I'm not a fan of it. I wish they would get rid of it, but I made myself a promise a long time ago when I started. I watched some really good Florida anglers kind of not change with the times. Like even just flipping mats back in the day. You know, they stayed doing what they grew up doing, what they've always had success on, using the same hooks and the same 25-pound big game line and, you know, 7-6 rods. They didn't, and that's just a simple thing, making a change from mono to braid and a 7-11 flipping stick. And even bait changes, like when the beaver come out, like that was huge. You know what I mean? Like that got more bites than anything else. And you know, it's over a crawdad style bait. And anyway, those guys kind of faded out. And I saw that, you know, years ago. And I'm like, man, I hope I'm not hard-headed enough to do that. And truthfully, that was one of the biggest reasons why I left MLF is I was hard-headed. I didn't want to change the times. I thought I could go over to the opens and just kind of fish my way into the Elite Series and then do what I want to do. But that wasn't the reality. I mean, the reality was that you either change or you die. You know what I mean? Slow, miserable, you know, $2,000 entry fees at a time and $4 a gallon gas. That's the reality of it.
You had to go into this year, you know, with the first term of the year on Okeechobee. Had an idea last year of what you were in for, even though it was kind of a freak show year. It was the perfect marriage of these anglers with the talent, with the schedule. And you started off and you top 10 that event on Okeechobee. You're currently in 17th in the EQ points. There's 3 tournaments left. You're like 60 points out. You're in my opinion, there's like 20 guys that have a shot at this thing, and there's 9 spots now, and you're one of those spots. But this year just seems to be, you have a 10th, a 49th, a 59th, a 26th, a 78th, and a 94th. You look at it, you're like 13,000 through 6 tournaments. You've only cashed 2 checks, but dude, like you have everything you set out to accomplish in front of you. Just kind of walk through this season, starting with that top 10 in Florida.
I mean, you know, I was excited to come to Okeechobee. I'm not going to lie. I love fishing here. I don't fish here hardly at all anymore. But yeah, it's always good. Sleep in my own bed. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. The lake just didn't really fish the way that I wanted it to. I kind of I kind of was able to junk fish my way into making a top 10. And I really thought I had something figured out on the after the day 2. And it didn't. I kind of gambled a little bit, and I wish I wouldn't have, because 2 or 3 points, from 7th to 10th, I ended up finishing 10th, but, I think I was in 6th going into the last day. That's 3, 4, 5 extra points makes or breaks a lot of this. We're getting down to crunch time. But I mean, overall, I've been able to survive. I'll tell you, dude, a lot of my 70, 60 and 70 place finishes that I've had this year is pretty easy to point at what went wrong. Is I thought I could do what I wanted to do, sight fish, flip, catching them, pre-spawn or on the beds. And I kind of neglected the whole scoping thing. And every tournament that I've had that I've done well in, I've always been able to scope my way out of a jam. You know what I mean? Like at Logan Martin, I found one great big pair. It was like a 5.5 and a 3.5 on the bed. The last 30 minutes of practice on Wednesday, and cruised the rest of that pocket. There was 2 more in there, about 2.5. And I'm like, great, I'll start here. And, if the big one's gone, a 3.5 pounder is still a 3.5 pounder on Logan Martin.
Well, that's a monster.
Yeah.
For that week.
Yeah. I went straight there, got lined up, and on my second cast, I catch the 5 pounder. And then my third cast, I catch the male, and just kind of fished around in there for 30 minutes and caught, almost 15 pounds. I'm like, great. And I kind of went and looked around and, knew I had a good bag. And then I realized that I was kind of be in trouble on day 2. So I had some scoping fish, and I just started coming down the river scoping, and I caught 10 pounds in the first 2 hours. And I'm like, great, I got a check. Now I'm going to go do what I want to do. And I cruised around. I found one more 5 pounder locked on a bed, and I lost it twice. And that's just the way it goes. You know what I mean? But it's, like Lake Eufaula, Alabama, no scoping fish, finished 70th, and didn't weigh in a limit either day. Okay. So, I mean, that's the kind of things that just irked me. You know what I mean? Like, we get 4.5 days. Like, I should have been better prepared. Like, I've done this long enough. Like, I know even if you take scoping out of the equation, right? Take all the electronics off, like the bank gets beat up after 5 days of practice, and it for sure gets beat up after day 1. And day 2s are tough, and you better have something to go to.
We got a new fishery coming up, and one of the reasons why you came to mind was Leech Lake. Seems like it might suit a Florida guy. Like, I don't know about rice, but I know they have largemouth. I know they catch them on a frog there. I know that there's a lot of Florida guys who have done well up in the north. Like, it's for a guy who's been doing it as long as you have, it's probably refreshing to go to a new fishery that there's no history on. But I mean, you got a big derby coming up this next week on Leech. What are your thoughts on going to Minnesota and trying to figure out a place that I wasn't even on my radar until I saw it on the schedule?
No, it really wasn't on my radar either. I like going to new places. I am looking a little forward to it. But I mean, just most of the guys know it's probably going to be one on smallmouth. There's just not a bunch of them, just from what you hear. There's very little information out there, which is good. I don't know until I get there. I don't really know what to expect. I do know this. I cannot fit one more rod into my Bass Cat or one more tackle box or a bag of anything. And my diesel truck is probably going to get about 4.5 miles to the gallon. Cause I really don't, I'm loaded to the gills. I don't know what to expect when we get there. And then we got the Mississippi River after that, and I'm flying home and then flying back. So I kind of have everything for both tournaments, but I'm excited about Leech. I mean, it looks fun. What few YouTube videos are out there, it looks like a fun place to go fish. But like I said, 5 days of practice I mean, even really good, places just seem to get beat up a lot.
I just I've looked at it. I'm trying to find a picture of it online, but I'm really curious about this like wild rice and how this is going to play out.
Oh, I can tell you how it's going to play out. There's a lot of people that are upset because somebody went in there and caught them, and then when we're not supposed to be in there and catching them.
There's like harvestable rice and non-harvestable rice, and we have to get like our boats checked before we can put on there. There's like 3 or 4 boat ramps on the lake that hold like 15 boats a piece. We're going to be putting 200 boats on the thing. It's like the roughest lake in the country when the wind blows. When the wind doesn't blow, it fishes really small. The smallmouth are pelagic. If you find them, you catch 26 pounds, but you might go 3 days and not get a single bite. The largemouth live in like 3 places on the lake, and they bite everything they see, so there won't be any left after day 1. This is all stuff I've heard about this, Brandon. But then that's in the same breath, those people will be like, yeah, but you can catch 25 pounds of smallmouth. And man, if you get on a good largemouth bite, you can catch 23 pounds. Boy, it's a hell of a fishery. But we had a 50 boat tournament on there, and it was fished out by day 3. And we're like, man, this one is super intriguing to me.
It is. I mean, it's until we get there and launch the boats and just kind of feel ourselves around, I honestly don't really know what to expect. I mean, looks like a great place to frog. It also looks like a great place to, throw a drop shot and catch a bunch of big smallmouth too. So,
and then the final one of the year is going to be an absolute shootout, because you look at the Angler of the Year point standings right now on a predominantly but also highly pressured spotted bass fishery. You just go ahead and put a check mark next to Emil Wagner. That's a Babe Ruth wheelhouse event for him, just like this one in Minnesota is for Fothergill. But I'm thinking, you tell me which one of these guys isn't going to catch him on Hartwell. Easton Fothergill, Dakota Ebear, Cody Meyer, Tucker Smith, Jack York, Evan Cugg, Andrew Loberg. I don't know a bunch about Bobby Bakewell. Matt Adams will catch him. Emil Wagner, Paul Marks, Bo Browning, Kyle Austin, and then you. Yeah. I mean, there's half of that field is built for finicky, high-pressured spotted bass in the fall.
100%. I mean, Bobby Bakewell's a Florida guy, but he's a phenomenal
Evan Cugg
scoper. He can he'll flail around and do what he needs to do to make it. I mean, that's the thing. Like that's one thing. Like I was talking with my brother the other day, and we got 3 tournaments left. I'm right around 60 points out from being in the cut. It's I don't really feel like I got to go get all 60 back at Leech, but I need to put a good dent in it, but the Mississippi River, I think, will be kind of a wild card for some of those guys that you listed. But it's the river. I mean, you can land on one patch of, milfoil that's got them, and they crack them. So,
and then you get locked out and don't get to weigh them in.
Yeah. Dude, there's so many things, that I don't know if it's like this every year, but there's a lot of moving parts coming in here. But the fact is that me fishing the way that I fish, I need to be, I need to have 2 good tournaments coming up, because I don't want to be in 10th or 11th behind all those guys going into Hartwell.
And it's a realistic points. I mean, Emil Wagner's in 10th right now, so he's 1 point out, and he's got like 190th on his. And now he's had other tournaments like that, but this isn't like last year where you look at it and you're like, this has to be a typo. Like, it's a dogfight for those last 3 or 4 spots this year.
It is. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. You got Kenta in the mix too. So, I mean, he's liable to be a double qualifier.
Yeah, he'll take that out. I mean, Kyle Austin, Jimmy Washam. He's not, I mean, and then my buddy Austin Cranford, I've never seen, I fished Thursday nighters with him. That dude is straight up obsessed. He is daylight to dark every single day on different lakes in Oklahoma right now. They talk about guys wanting it. He has put himself in a position with his sponsorship and what he does for his day job to where he can get completely immersed in it. And like,
that's awesome.
He's tough to tangle with right now. Like he's fishing good on a high, massive like, you know, that high, like when you're like, I don't know how or where, but like, I'll just figure it out when I get there. And like, it never even crosses your mind that you won't. And then you get off the water and you're like, how the hell did everyone not have 17 pounds? These guys all suck. Like I've done that. I've been in that spot like twice in my life. He's there now. A lot of the top guys, you know, you know exactly what that means. Like it's a feeling that you can't replicate. You can't force that feeling.
No, it's just not, you know, nothing seems to go wrong. You know, it's, yeah. And I really hadn't been in that type of deal all year, man. I mean, really, I've had some, you know, odd and end things happen to where it kind of eludes that snowball effect to where it goes, you know, really good. You know, but I mean, all in all, I'm happy. I mean, it is what it is. You know, I just gotta do my job. That's really it. Like at the end of the day, them boys can catch them or they won't catch them. And it doesn't really matter unless I do what I need to do. You know, I need to do my job for the next 3 tournaments, and then let the chips fall where they fall. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, it's either going to happen or it isn't. You know, you can't really be, you know, fixated on it or, you know, stuff like that. You just, you know, make every bite count. And that's something that I haven't done, you know, in the 7 previous tournaments. You know, it's I'm getting some good bites and it's just, you know, going a little haywire, but that's a typical fishing deal, dude. That's nothing different. That's, you know, I mean, that happens. So, but yeah, I mean, I am kind of happy we got a couple grass lakes coming up. You know, so that's, there is that, there's a plus on that.
Have you ever seen anything as crazy as, what went down at Lake St. Clair as far as the weight that it took? Like that was bonkers, dude. Like I finished 82nd and had like an ounce more than you. We were basically in the same boat. Like I thought I had a pretty decent bag coming in on day one and I'd never seen that many quality fish, especially when you look at what it usually takes. Like that was like 2.5 pounds higher than I anticipated it to be. Were you kind of in the same boat with that? Like, we made it through day one and then my God.
Yeah. I mean, I knew they were going to catch them. It was a weird tournament. Like I look back and I drove I was driving home from that event and kind of replaying the stuff in my mind. And I mean, I had 4 spots that were loaded with them, you know, and I really regret not catching more in practice to kind of figure out the right, that I was around the right size. Like I kind of did the typical, you know, practice deal, you know, pull in, scope around, catch 2 or 3 and then scope around for another 45 minutes and then look and you see 30 more. Like, okay, well, this is a good spot. Drop a waypoint. They're going to be, you know, could be 500 yards from here tomorrow, or whatnot. But I just wasn't around the right class of fish. I mean, it was a struggle to catch 3.5s or, you know, to catch 3 3/4 for me. You know, so I would love to have that one back to replay that one again. But after 4.5 days of practice, or 4 days, I didn't fish on Wednesday because it was horrendous weather. But I mean, after 4 solid days of fishing, I found one good spot each day, but it really wasn't that good. You know what I mean? Like that was on me. You know, had someone told me, man, your average, the bottom class of fish has to be a 3 3/4 in the group, with 4.5s being average. And then you occasionally catch a 5 or 5.5, you know, like if I'd have known that going into it, I would have, you know, I say I would have done better, but really and truly, I would have had nothing to go to on the tournament day. Cause I found what I found and it just wasn't that good. You know what I'm saying?
I was in the same boat on that. Like when I saw that Trevor McKinney had 27-12 on day one, I was like, my God, you take my 5 biggest from 4.5 days of practice in the first day of the tournament. And I'm at like, maybe 21, 22. I was like, that was when I realized I missed the boat. It was fun though. It was freaking fun. I mean, if I'm going to get my ass kicked, I'd rather get my ass kicked catching 50 freaking 3-pound smallmouth a day than zeroing.
Dude, and that's what that's what frustrated the biggest thing that I didn't. I mean, my biggest regret from the tournament is I caught 18 on the first day, and I knew that I figured, I'll be around 70th. Well, that was wrong. I was like 110th. And I started on a different spot. I started about 500 yards from where I had to where I was going to start. Anyway, long story short, like I was in the late flight and I had to pee, and I just like the heck with it. And I just stopped. I ran out and I got close, and I'm like, I got to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as soon as I put the trolling motor in the water, I see something come up and hit on the surface. And as soon as my power pole trolling motor straightened up, I could see them. There was like 50 of them in front of me.
Oh my God!
I chased them down for an hour. Every time I'd cull, I'd lose them, and then I'd pick them back up. Like it was fun, right? And I caught probably 19 pounds in the first hour, 45 minutes for sure. And I'm like, man, there's so many 4.5s out here. I'm gonna just stay and fish. And I never culled the rest of the day. And I had 2 4.5 pounders that were still on beds up on Huron. And I kept thinking, no, I'm not going to make that run because that's a long run to make.
Gosh.
A lot of stuff can happen. And then I never caught a 4-pounder. And yeah, riding home, I was just mad. Like I almost put my boat in Saturday morning on Huron just to go catch them. And just so just to see if they were still there. But that was
smallmouth.
Yeah. 2 smallmouth spawning on.
How long did you spend out Huron?
I spent a day.
Dude, I drove over the bridge on the way because I went through Canada on the way. I went up to Thousand Islands afterwards, and you cross that bridge and you look out to your left where it like opens out into Huron. And I look at my buddy and I was like, my God, that might be the most intimidating thing that I've ever seen.
It was nasty. It was really cool. It was, I mean, I'm glad I went and spent, but I didn't catch hardly anything. And, I happened to see one in about 18, 19 foot of water. Cause the day I went, it blew so hard on St. Clair, but it blew like, I don't know what direction. It blew from Detroit towards the St. Clair River. So when I got to Huron, it was slick, calm, glass as far as you could see out into the ocean. And so I just started, the water temp was like 12 degrees colder there than it was on St. Clair. And, I spent a lot of time around some really good smallmouth fishermen, Corey and Chris and Gussie. And I started looking, and I left my flogger in the truck, and I ended up finding 2, and I caught one, and it was like 4, right at 4 3/4. And then about an hour later, I found another one, and there wasn't many left. Don't get me wrong. There wasn't many, but they were deep. And I kind of kicked myself in the butt because I weighed in like a 3 1/4 and probably a 3 1/2. Like that would have given me probably, 21, 22 ish.
So 3 more pounds, say 730. That would have been the difference between 60th and 94th.
Yeah, that's 30.
How long of a run is that from St. Clair? Then you have to go into the river, run that whole.
It's like 30. I want to say it's like roughly like 35 miles.
Fairly runnable. So it's what, 45-minute run? Yeah.
Yeah. And there's to the best of my knowledge, there's no, no wake zones or anything. And it's
so you've been an hour and a half in, then give yourself 45 minutes to catch those fish. So 2.5 hours would have been reasonable.
What would have been reasonable? But
but when you're catching them, dude, you're sitting there going, well, how many can I catch in 2.5 hours? And surely one of these is going to be a 4 1/4. And why would I spend an hour and a half running when I know that all I have to do is reel into the right one here and I've got the same result?
I know. And I knew 19 pounds was not going to be very good after looking at the day one results and stuff like that. But yeah, there's so many 4, 4.5, 5 pounders that are on St. Clair. And they showed you that on Thursday, on day one of the tournament, they laid the blueprint down that, that of what to expect. And, I stayed, and mainly because, had I not been, decent shape in the points, I probably would have made the run. But you go up there, you break down, you run out of gas. You know what I mean? Like no one's going to come get you. And granted, 95th place or whatever I finished wasn't very good, but at least I weighed in my 19 pounds on it too.
220 boat field. I think a lot of people don't understand that. Listen, I know that's not a good finish, but it's in the top 60 or top 40% of the field out of 220 boats. Like, I mean, it's wild how these points are shaping out this year, especially since they did the Northern so late, which typically have more boats that fill up. So you're not talking about 150, 160. Like, there's a lot of movement available in a 220 boat field.
Yeah. And, it is what it is, dude. That won't be the only decision I question, this season, much less,
That's what this game's all about, though. It's all about decision makings and execution. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could have run up there and caught 22 pounds, you know what I mean? Finished out the day with 22 pounds and then, had a great story to tell. And I could have run up there and, slung an ear on a prop and I'm in trouble.
Or you could have been like, dude, I wasted 3 hours out of my day running to some fish that I knew probably weren't going to be there. And if I just stayed and put my head down, I would have culled up another pound. Yeah, it is what it is. That's what makes the sport awesome. Yeah.
And I literally caught like 4 2-pounders other than those two on Huron. And I even fished in the river a lot too, coming back down. And that was it. Like it was a straight Hail Mary if I was going to go. And, but it is what it is. It would have been a cool story.
Made that run. I know another guy I know Ledoux went down and practiced there for a day, but I wonder if anyone else made that run in the Derby.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But I like places like that, man. I mean, you spread out, you can do what you want to do. It's a cool place. Yeah. I mean, it definitely is a fun fishery. Like I can't wait to take my kid up there one day.
I did have a couple people that asked questions. What do you know what's going on Okeechobee, like with grass, water level, spraying the whole 9 yards? Anything that's like pertinent that the fishing community needs to know about?
Yeah, Okeechobee is still the same old Okeechobee. They spray, it seems like 7 days a week, even though there's nothing really for them to spray. The lakes, just last I looked, was right under 14 foot. We had a hurricane come through last week or 2 weeks ago. It dumped a bunch of rain, so all that stuff is going to eventually roll down. So the water is going to steadily rise. And yeah, I mean, in my opinion, dude, they're doing everything in their power to destroy it, and that's between the high water, the spraying. There's no grass. I mean, there hardly isn't any grass, right? Now, I talked to Scott Martin about it every week. It seems like that when he's home and I'm home, like we go round and around and around over it, and there's really nothing we can do. Like it's still got them, like you know what I mean, but. I mean, Scott said it best when he won down here. Like, it's a phenomenal fishery if they would just leave it alone. You know what I'm saying? But the weights that he had, they only come, those giant weights like that. They only come when the lake's kind of at the worst. You know what I'm saying? Because it kind of bunches them up,
condenses the big ones into favorable areas.
Because it should take. A good bag when the lake's healthy should be 25 to 30 pounds. You should feel like when you're coming in a team tournament or whatever, you got 27.5 pounds, like you have a shot to win. Now, whether you do or not, it's still Okeechobee. We got great big ones, but that's what it should be. These 35 and 37 pound bags that we've been catching out here is not, it's great. It looks great on paper, but it shows the devastation that's happening to the lake because they're all in like 3 areas, and
never thought about that. That's crazy.
But you go out on a Tuesday and you throw a frog or flip reeds and you catch 7 that are over 7 pounds. That's fun. I mean, I don't really care. That's good times. But I kind of got into it with the FWC people at ICAST. Not really got into it. I just had one question I've been dying to ask somebody that would listen is why does the state of Florida spend millions every year killing the grass on all the Florida lakes, but then they'll drag a barge out 3 miles offshore and sink it for an artificial reef? You know what I mean? Like, why are they creating habitat in certain places and then killing all the freshwater lakes, that they can? And I got the typical, that's not my department, it's above my pay grade, type answer. And I was like, all right, buddy, I appreciate it. I just had to get that off my chest.
Yeah, it's I know Scott's really passionate about it and has posted a lot of stuff about it, but that's like, I mean, that's that's on the one of the Yankee stadiums of bass fishing.
Absolutely.
I mean, you've got Gunnersville, Champlain, Okeechobee. Like, I mean, what else am I missing on that list?
Yeah, I
think those are the three. Like, those I would say are the big three. Like, if you're to take north, central, and south, I'd go Champlain, Gunnersville, and Okeechobee as the big three.
Yeah.
Either Toledo Bend or Rayburn.
Yeah.
I'd have to go Toledo Bend. I think those would be the four. And then throw an Ozark in.
Yeah. But there you go. Toledo Bend and Rayburn. I mean, what do they have in common, right? A lot of grass.
And when Toledo really sucked, it was when they freaking came over with the planes and bombed the whole lake and killed all the grass. And now it's starting to come back.
And Texas has done a great job. I mean, they stock Florida strain largemouth and they let grass grow. I mean, that's a recipe to have, thousands and thousands of tourists come and fish your lakes every year, and that's it. I mean, we don't have to stock Florida strain largemouth. They're swimming around all over down here. We just need some grass. I mean, you need grass on, and the only lakes that they really haven't touched, like Toho. And you watched, I think it was Heavy Hitters for MLF. I mean, they were.
Oh, dude, that was wild.
It looked fun, right? Yeah. I mean, that's what I grew up doing my whole life. Yeah. That looked pretty fun.
Oh yeah, I remember just back like in 2009 to 2013, like just the freaking amount of grass, like your whole family, and then the Tharp down there and those guys. I mean, just you're like, holy cow, like that looks so intimidating.
Yep. And they and the people that are in charge of managing the pond and stuff, I've been to the meetings and stuff like that, and they have these charts where the most grass that the lakes had in like a 20-year cycle. Yeah. And it was during that 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, deal. And then they started slowly getting rid of it. That also coincided to when we were catching 100-pound tournaments were winning with 100 pounds out here. And that's, I don't know. I mean, we could go on and on and on about this, but it really hurts my feelings. I'm not going to lie. It really makes me sick to my stomach. Cause I choose not to fish out here that much. Right. I mean, I got a 6-year-old son. We fish every weekend we go somewhere. And I couldn't tell you the last time he's been on Okeechobee. And that kind of breaks my heart. Like I kind of want to tear up a little bit saying that, because I mean, my whole family has grown up fishing this place, you know what I mean? And Scott's family has grown up fishing this place. And, when it comes down to it, but eventually things will change. Like Mother Nature will fix itself. I mean, if we could get a drought, that'll help. It's not going to be good for the farmlands and the farmers around the community, but it would sure help. But like I said, it's things go in cycles, and we're just in a down cycle now. And we get a new management, or Mother Nature fixes herself, we'll be good.
I'll let you go here. Mike asked an interesting question. The answer is yes. He goes, "Can you scope in the middle of Lake O? Is anyone doing that?" So I had a buddy in this open that was driving. He was doing one of those cut. We had one day of really calm practice earlier this year, and he was doing like a cut across. Anyway, he was out in the middle of the lake. He had to take a leak. He stops. He sees something bust on the surface. So he drops his trolling motor, and he said it was the biggest school of 2 to 3 pound largemouth he has ever seen in his entire life. There were hundreds, 3 to 10 foot under the surface in every single direction for an acre. He said he caught them every single cast for 10 minutes, marked the waypoint. They were on nothing. There was some bait out there. He said it was literally National Geographic. He's like, my God, it's 5 casts, 15 pounds. He's like, he said you could catch 150. Said he went back, tried to find them. the next day of practice, never found a single thing, never found a single thing the following day, and never found him at all in the tournament. Said it was just a roving school. Is that a thing on Okeechobee?
I mean,
have you heard of that before?
Yeah, I have. There's been a lot of seine fishermen and stuff like that over the years that have told me they've seen giant schools like that. But I think the vast majority of all of Okeechobee's fish lives offshore for the majority of the year, right? And I just think it comes in cycles. Mm-hmm. Like they don't all live offshore, but I think there's a couple big groups of them that move around. And that's why different sections of the lake from year to year seem to be good.
What about the middle? Like, is there a local? Is there like an old dude, like in like a bullet with nothing that like fishes out in the middle of the actual middle of that thing? Like, I've always heard everybody go, man, if someone could figure out the middle of Okeechobee.
And maybe the forward facing sonar, it can change, but it's so dirty out there, right? Like, it's so dirty. But like I just said, not to contradict myself, I do think that they live out there and they obviously feed out there or they wouldn't stay out there.
But I've never heard of any of the Florida guys be like, oh, there's one guy who like, no one has ever been like, oh yeah, like this one time we caught him in the middle.
No. I've come across the lake so many times when it's been calm, like dead center of the lake, and running back from down south to the Kissimmee River, and just thought, man, I really suck today. It'd be nice if they just come up schooling around me out here. No, but they do roam out there a lot more than what we give them credit for. And truthfully, somebody spent some time out there, I would venture to say they could kind of pinpoint them down, but man, it's a big pond out there.
It's a great lake. It's the fifth largest freshwater lake completely in the United States.
It's a big pond for sure.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to get in here before I let you go?
Man, no, I'm good. I'm going to finish packing up here after we get done, and I'm rolling out first thing in the morning.
20 something hours?
30 for me. I mean, I live down here.
Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, you got to go all the way down and then.
Yeah. So we're going to send it first thing in the morning and try to get there, early Friday, get my boat checked. They're probably going to flip out if they watch this and know that I come from Okeechobee when we have to go
clean drain and dry. I just had to do that in like Vermont and New York and all that stuff. Like, you just got to go through the sucker with a fine tooth comb. The best thing is probably take that thing to a car wash before you go and just hose everything down. Make sure you don't have any invasives.
Yeah. So it'll be good, but no, man, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And we'll see you in a few days.
Yeah. I'll see you in Minnesota. Catch them up.
Sounds good, my man. Thanks.
All right,
again.
Brandon.
See you, buddy.
All right. That is Brandon McMillan. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll run down the Progressive Bassmaster Angler of the Year race, which is a race. It's BTL on a Tuesday. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
In 2023, we became a household name in the crappie fishing world thanks to Power Breaks, the game changer. Hey, bass fishing world, buckle up, because you're next. It's going to be fun. Welcome to the next evolution of our product line, Power Breaks Sidekick, designed to install right on your shallow water anchors. We are the first and only fishing brake company to offer a breakaway system. Just like with the Game Changer, the Power Breaks Sidekick has it as well. And it's not a matter of if you're going to need it, it's when. Power Breaks, the most durable fishing brakes available on the market today. Made right here in the USA with our rock-solid 2-year warranty. Hey, not all fishing brakes are built equally, and you owe it to yourself to find out why ours are different. Power Brake Sidekick. Order yours today at mypowerbrakes.com. You'll be glad you did.
Your early morning mentality is your every hour mentality. All gas, no brakes. Focus, purpose, power. Destined for the water, but confident everywhere else. A calming buzz before the storm, the truth of nature itself. You can't catch lightning in a bottle. There's a limit out there, but it's not with your gear. Unrelenting power delivery. Unparalleled weight savings. Keeping you on the water, whether you run a 9.9 or outscoping your best 5. In this rare air, there's power in the silence. It's a mindset, thinking only of the things that matter and freeing your mind from the things that you trust.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top 100, Strike King.
Gear that just plain works. Cast after cast after cast. AFTCO. Any fish, any water.
Welcome back, BTL, on a Tuesday. I was perusing Instagram just now, and I saw Kyle Patrick just missed the New York state record smallmouth by 4 ounces. Day 1 of practice, he just caught, literally like less than an hour ago, an 8-pound 1-ounce smallmouth on the St. Lawrence River. So I am going to text him and see if he can jump on. I mean, it's during practice, but he just caught an 8-pounder, dude. Like, that's absolutely crazy. Look at this fish. A lot of the guys don't post a lot during practice. He said, I just can't comprehend how big this fish is. An 8-pound 1-ounce smallmouth on day 1 of practice for the elite event here on the St. Lawrence River. By far my biggest smallmouth I've ever caught. Missed the state record by 4 ounces. Unbelievable. Yeah, I'd say they're going to catch him this week on the St. Lawrence River. Justin Hamner has a 13-point lead over Chris Johnston. Chris and his brother Corey are, I think you would say, undoubtedly the best smallmouth fishermen on the St. Lawrence River in the field. So it is going to be an absolute shootout. I would venture to say that in order for Justin Hamner to win the Angler of the Year, he is going to have to finish inside the top 13, because I don't see Chris Johnson finishing outside. You want to talk about a guy who had one of the most tumultuous and interesting off seasons. Jacob Fouts on an absolute tear. Is only 5 points behind Chris Johnson. He likes the St. Lawrence. He's very good with his electronics. He's fishing with confidence. He has 652 points. Hamner has 671, but like I said, he's got to beat Chris Johnston to have a shot at the Angler of the Year by at least 5 spots. And then you go down to JT Tompkins. Now there's a little bit of a jump there. Tompkins has 634 points, whereas Hamner has 671. But if there is a guy who has put in a lot of time and knows a lot about the St. Lawrence River, it is JT Tompkins. I'll say this. In the last Open we were there, I went out and I had a freaking day of practice. Like I ended up, it was my only day I've had. It was like a 25-pound day. And you know, I didn't sit there and beat on him. It was just 5-pounder here. I caught a 6. And I was feeling good. And I had put it in a ramp that only like 1 or 2 other guys had put in at. JT was one of them. And we were taken out in the evening. And he's like, "Did you catch him, Panger?" And I was like, yeah, I caught him really good. He said, "What'd you have?" I said, I don't know, like probably around 25 today. Like I had a good day. I said, "How'd you do?" And he goes, I smashed him. And I was like, "Really? What'd you have?" And he goes, a hair over 28. I was like, "Oh, okay." So he is a force to be reckoned with on the St. Lawrence. A point behind him, Trey McKinney. Those guys room together. I know they practice together. They're a bunch. He's definitely going to catch him. Then you go down into 6, and it's the man who broke the 100-pound mark for the smallmouth. He's just coming off of a 75-pound win in the Bassmaster Open on Lake St. Clair. He's won there before. That's Jay Shakurit. He has 633 points. And then in 7th, Corey Johnston, who we've seen what he's been able to do on the St. Lawrence River. He has 630 points. And then Cody Huff with 628. So let's just say Mr. Hamner has his work cut out for him. But with the year he's having, with the attitude he's having, he's had success on the St. Lawrence before. He says it's a special place. He really enjoys it. I would not be surprised to see him top 10. All he's got to do is top 10. Hamner top 10s. He's the angler of the year. I think if he doesn't top 10, Chris Johnson, I just don't see Chris Johnson not finishing in the top 5. But I don't know. We'll do it in Open Pros Pick, and we're going to shoot that sometime. Andrew Upshaw, Todd Castledine, ish, and myself sometime today. So that should be up on Andrew Upshaw's channel. Tomorrow, I saw a couple questions on it. Matt Steffen joins the program. We're going to get the lowdown on where he stands as far as requalification for the Bass Pro Tour, what he thought about his first year on it. A lot to shake out there still. And then we're also going to talk about our in-fisherman quest that is going to take place in October. Big shout out to Brandon McMillan for jumping on BTL. And until then, we will talk to everybody tomorrow. See ya.